Greetings, Christian Alexander Richmond here. And today I'm going to cover some of the strife and antagonistic kind of discourse across X and maybe some other social media platforms. I'm specifically going to address certain perspectives and one video in particular, because, how do I say, there's quite a bit of misconceptions, quite a bit of ignorance. And I've mentioned my background in a previous video, my reaction analysis of Assassin's Creed Shadow, which is the focus of my video today. Definitely can be understandable that people might not comprehend so much Japanese history, especially if the person is not from Japan. However, I'm even noticing some ignorances from my Japanese brothers and sisters. And any kind of misconceptions can lead to division, chaotic discourse, and that definitely devoids any potential of amicable and thought-provoking kind of dialogue, relationships. So let's dive into this. Let's see. The person, and forgive my pronunciation, I may make a mistake, Fee Hardison, looks like a nice person. So let's dive into this.
Oh no, a black samurai on the new Assassin's Creed?
Assassin's Creed, yes.
Japanese here, sit your white ass down.
Japanese here, sit your white ass down. Intriguing way to go about this. Imagine if the tables were turned and there was another ethnic group stating to another ethnic group, you sit your whatever ass down. Usually, whenever addressing people, going about this without any kind of disrespect or ad hominems is more so prudent and conducive to positive results thereafter. So
I was scrolling on Instagram and saw this post. I went to the comment field and there were a lot of white men saying that this is cultural appropriation. And me, as a Japanese, thought, but Yasuke actually existed.
Yes, there may be quite a bit of Caucasian people expressing disdain. However, I noticed on X and other social media that the breadth of people expressing kind of a different preference or criticizing the selection a bit, that's from all walks of life, not only Caucasian. So when we think about representation, yes, we think about representation in different forms of media, games, in TV shows, movies, etc. Exploring representation, expanding representation, this has been something more so common in recent years. Now, that could provide a whole host of new ways of experiencing a different perspective. That brings something new to the table, okay? Because nobody wants to eat the same steak again and again and again. We have the law of diminishing returns. So when there's something unique, that's great. However, when we think about, okay, cultural appropriation, is this the sole reason for some of these fans' disdain? Let's look back into the history of Assassin's Creed. So the first one launched a long time ago, right? And the PS3, that's a couple generations away now. And to think about, okay, we had this stealth game that's focused on a cool historical time period. And then we have Ezio on Assassin's Creed 2, Connor in 3, etc., etc. We're going to different places. In the midst of that, some fans were really salivating at the prospect of Assassin's Creed going to Japan. But when in Japan, Japan's most famous time period, and that would be the Warring States period, the Sengoku Jidai. So we have this, and when people have been waiting for so long, they've been clamoring for this for so long, there may be these maybe unrealistic, there could be these unreasonable expectations. However, a person wanting something, having a preference, is not condemnable. Is it inherently? No. Might depend on what the perspective is, what the preference is. But is this egregious to say that, oh, if a fan says, oh, I would have rather had one of the most famous samurai playable, Hattori Hanzo, right, of Iga, which is featured in Assassin's Creed Shadow, probably in the trailer. But who knows? Maybe that was another ninja fiefdom. Anyways, the number of incredibly illustrious and famous historical figures in the Sengoku Jidai, too plentiful, too much to count, right? So let's look at this. We had Sarutobi Sasuke, which was for the Takeda, right? That's more of a fictional-ish character. So the sky could have been the limit. And we have Akechi Mitsuhide, who is responsible for Oda Nobunaga's death when he was supposed to be sent to assist Hashiba Hideyoshi against his Mori invasion. Instead, he did the coup at Honnoji in Kyoto. Now, he forced Oda Nobunaga to commit ritualistic suicide. That's seppuku. Whether or not that happens in the game or Oda Nobunaga's probably assassinated, time will tell. Akechi Mitsuhide could have been that assassin. Why do I say that? Well, right after Honnoji, he unfortunately or fortunately fails to organize his ranks in a proficient manner, and Hashiba Hideyoshi is able to rout him at Yamazaki. But why do I say, oh, he could have been chosen? Because then the game would have been done right there. That's not the case. Because, as we know, maybe, for people who have played Assassin's Creed, Ubisoft likes to throw in some fiction, throw in some curveballs, right? Play with a little bit of the what ifs. And what do I mean by that? Okay, think about AC2. Oh, Da Vinci's inventions, right? Like the military inventions, the tank, etc. That was a joke level, by the way. Anyways, after Akechi Mitsuhide's purported death at Yamazaki, there were rumors of a monk, Nankobo Tenkai. Now, Nankobo Tenkai was purportedly Akechi Mitsuhide, and Nankobo Tenkai lived much longer thereafter, and that would have been something intriguing to see. Maybe we will be able to experience this kind of what-if storytelling in Shadows. However, instead of playing as any of these incredibly famous figures, and there are so many more, we are playing as Yasuke and Naoe. So Yasuke, what? The fact that he is devoid of any note, particularly after Honnoji, that does not warrant, oh, we should totally ignore him. He means nothing. No, that actually plays to Ubisoft's typical formula. And the sky is the limit for the fictional narrative, hopefully compelling treat that they might give fans. We'll see what's up. I know that was a long diatribe, whatever, but continue.
So to make sure my fellow Japanese people are on the same side with me, I went to X and looked it up in Japanese. And yes, they were on my side, saying that Yasuke actually existed and it's funny that foreigners don't like it.
Yasuke 100% existed. What is intriguing though is if we think about, for example, the American show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Some of the questions are hard, yes? And sometimes we need a lifeline. So some of the contestants might call and they'll be like, oh, what do you think the answer is, A, B, C, or D? We can also have like the audience in the actual room help with the answer as well by voting. How many times are the people that we check with correct? There's always a right or wrong whenever we have data to look back at. So does being part of a group, and in this case, a part of a certain ethnicity, endow the person with an inherent objectivity on subjects regarding that ethnic group? So in simpler terms, oh, I'm Japanese, so anything I say about Japanese material, that's right. So let's move on.
In 1627.
This is the main reason why I'm making this video. But what does she say about 1627?
An Italian missionary, Alessandro Valignano, came to Japan with his black slave.
That is factually incorrect. That is almost egregiously incorrect because Honnoji is 1582. When she's saying 1627 is the year of Yasuke's arrival to Japan, let's look at the difference, okay? So we have 18 years after 1582, that's 1600. We have 27 plus 18. What is that? That is 45. So 45 years after Oda Nobunaga died, 45 years after we have any kind of record of Yasuke, she is saying that that's when Yasuke came. So this necessitates checking, do we have enough confidence in the source to believe what the source is asserting? So this isn't a small little mistake, right? This is 45 years after Oda Nobunaga dies. When does Yasuke actually come with Alessandro Valignano? 1579. Like the Japanese website here and AI says here. So we have the tools available. And unfortunately, there could be some people who, for whatever reason, they might make mistakes. However, when a person doesn't do his or her homework, that could be cause for concern. That could be cause to doubt the veracity, the credibility of the source. Let's continue.
Oda Nobunaga, one of the strongest leaders back then.
Oda Nobunaga, one of the strongest leaders back then. At the time when Yasuke was involved in Oda Nobunaga's ranks, Oda Nobunaga was the strongest leader in Japan at the time. That is at the height of Oda Nobunaga's power. He already controlled Kyoto. He already had access to the imperial court. He basically was the first unifier. Hence, that's why we say Oda Nobunaga is the first unifier, followed by Hashibe Hideyoshi turned to Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and then third we have Tokugawa Ieyasu. In Japanese, we have this kind of famous saying, and I'll just give you the gist really quick. So Oda Nobunaga, he laid out all the materials for the rice ball, and then Toyotomi Hideyoshi was able to shape that, right? But when we make food, like onigiri, like a rice ball, we make that so then we can eat. And what happened? Who ate this? Not Oda Nobunaga, not Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Instead, this was Tokugawa Ieyasu, formerly known as Matsudaira Motoyasu. So there's a little bit of a disconnect regarding how authentic is the information being pushed in this video.
Liked the slave so much because he was literally the first black person he's ever seen. So he negotiated Valignano to give the slave to him. Nobunaga named the slave Yasuke and gave him the status of Bushi, and he made Yasuke his servant. So yeah, black samurai did exist. So it is not cultural appropriation. Hope this helps.
Another primary reason why I've made this video, Oda Nobunaga endowed him with the title of Bushi or whatever, basically the warrior title, samurai. In popular culture, Yasuke is depicted as a samurai, 100%. I noticed some other perspectives asserting that, oh, retainer, that doesn't really exist in Japanese. They're kind of irrelevant to what is a samurai. However, actually what is more so accurate might be to discern Yasuke as a kosho. So a kosho is more involved in household kind of responsibilities. Now, of course, kosho could be a bit close to the lords that they're serving. And if we think about, okay, what's a great example of kosho? The most famous one happens to be also a kosho who served Oda Nobunaga and who died with Oda Nobunaga at Honnoji. Who is this? This is Mori Ranmaru. And Mori Ranmaru was relatively young. He was not a samurai yet, going through battles like he might be depicted, for example, in Samurai Warriors 1 with Akechi Mitsuhide. There are anachronisms thrown. When we look at some of the popular titles featuring all these different kind of historical figures and even featuring Yasuke, that doesn't mean that, oh, what's happening is actually the truth. We have artistic license. We can be creative. We can go expand the bounds of what is true and then just go into the fictional realm, which is totally great. That's how we can go enhance the entertainment of the player, of the person experiencing the content. Mori Ranmaru, okay, kind of young. Kosho, yeah. How long does it take to actually ascend into the samurai class? Could take about 2 years or maybe a couple decades. And what happens during that? Well, as you can see, there's all these different responsibilities, but there's also some training going on, martial arts, and then building up abilities to eventually be a proficient samurai. So you think about the period of servitude of Yasuke, some people might say, oh, it's 15 months or so. However, do we have clear-cut documentation sources of exactly what Yasuke did, of exactly what he did? If we had all this kind of information, everything would be so clear-cut and dry. However, we have enough information to say that, oh, maybe this was the case. This is more akin to a hypothesis, not yet in theory territory. So we should not try and push something to be taken as fact when there's no source validating the claim. Would we consider Mori Ranmaru a samurai? Because Yasuke, possible kosho, is considered a samurai. Depends on how far we're giving leeway to the definition. They might be given little weapons. So could that be kind of samurai-ish? Of course that can. However, that's not a traditional samurai as we might imagine a samurai to be, similar to Maeda Keiji or Sanada Yukimura, etc. They're not on the same level. And this isn't regarding the fact that, oh, those samurai, they're daimyo. It's not even about that. It's about what kind of class, what kind of position did they hold militarily? What were they respected as? Because Yasuke was let go, purportedly by Akechi Mitsuhide. Why? Because maybe he was not viewed as a samurai, and due to the fact that Yasuke is a foreigner. Did that help? Well, you tell me. Let's go have some dialogue in the comments below. I'm always here to respond with people from all walks of life. I never prefer to discriminate. I'll see you then.